Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. May the peace be with you. In the name of God, the All-Merciful, the Ever-Compassionate. Que la paz sea con ustedes, en el nombre de Dios, el Todo Misericordioso, el Gran Compasivo. La alabanza es para Dios, le alabamos, le imploramos, le pedimos perdón, nos refugiamos en Dios del mal que habita en nosotros mismos y de nuestras malas acciones. Declaro que no existe divinidad excepto Él, solo Él y nadie más. Y declaro que Mohammed es el mensajero de Dios. Las bendiciones y los saludos de paz son para nuestro líder Mohammed, su familia, sus compañeros y seguidores. La alabanza es para Dios, el Señor de los mundos. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. I declare there is no deity except God, and I declare that Muhammad is the messenger of God. And we begin as always, by thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Glorified and exalted is He for giving us this space, this time, this energy to gather together in His house, to worship His majesty, to worship Him, to praise His majesty, and to strengthen our bonds as the Ummah of Islam, as a community who pray together, who study together, who live together in peace. The title of this speech today is The Hispanic-Muslim Identity and My Journey in Islam. I will share with you precisely that, my journey in Islam from the very beginning, when I had my first encounter with Islam, when I finally decided to embrace this faith. My name is I was planning, I'm sorry for this break. I was planning this to be a conversation with each one of you, but then it got a little formal with the recording and everything. So we'll see how it goes. I may make it formal, I may make it informal, but anyhow, by the grace of Allah, we'll be here for about 40 minutes, engaging ourselves in a conversation about our Islam and the beauty of the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. My name is César Domínguez. I'm Mexican. I was born in the state of California, but most of my life I lived in Mexico. I currently work in the area of administration at Bayan Islamic Graduate School, an institution of higher learning that offers master's degrees in Islamic Studies, Islamic Education, Islamic Theology, and Islamic Chaplaincy. I'm traveling tomorrow to Chicago, where we will have 2 weeks of classes in our host institution, the Chicago Theological Seminary. So anyhow, I'm very blessed to be here, and it's truly a moment of great joy to be here and be part of this beautiful project with the American Muslim Institute and its distinguished members and honorable guests. Let me begin first by how should I tell you this? I'm not used to microphones, so this makes it a little difficult for me. But anyhow, I was saying that I was born into a Catholic family by the grace of God, and I say it with true honesty. I was, so for the first 40-some years of my life, I worshiped God through the rituals of Catholicism. I went to church at least twice a week, and all my family is Catholic, as it is a majority of the members of my culture of Mexico. And my first encounter with Islam took place in Egypt. It was in 2004 that I finally fulfilled my lifelong dream of visiting Egypt and visiting the ancient temples, the pyramids, the museums, and the culture which I grew very, very close to throughout my life. But anyhow, I wrote a piece some time ago about my first experience in Egypt at that time. And let me share with you a few of the things that I wrote at the time. Because I do remember that I cannot forget the first time that I visited a masjid, the first mosque that I visited in my life, which was Masjid Al-Hussein in Cairo. And I will never forget the time that I set foot in the masjid. And honestly, I felt that I was like awaking from a dream. There was an immensely powerful force that I felt. I remember listening to someone reciting Quran, and I remember being very deeply moved by the emotions, the rhythm, and the beauty of what was being communicated, even though I did not understand what was being said. But certainly what was being said took place in a sacred space, and it was being said in a very beautiful and precise manner. So that was beauty. And beauty as love, as faith, certainly goes beyond words. It is not something that is essentially expressed through words. Language, naturally, is necessary for the preservation of those experiences of history. But the first emotion of a human being, naturally, is not through words, it's through something else. So anyhow, I felt that, and I wrote at the time that all I needed to do was to wait. I remember, as I said, arriving at the masjid and just being taken by the experience, listening to someone reciting Quran, observing the people, and I just sat down and I felt one of my first thoughts was, well, all I have to do is wait to see what what comes my way. And I remember writing this: all I have to do is wait. All my life I've been waiting to learn how to wait. Because we know that patience is a virtue. We know how God speaks to the human heart that is patient. Patient to respond, patient to absorb, patient to move. And I felt that all I had to do was wait, and that I needed, that it was essential for me to search for this beauty that was being presented to me, to be able to touch it and be transformed by it. I always say that and this is true, I went to Egypt at that time, which was 2004, for 3 weeks, and I ended up staying 3 months. Honestly, simply because I could not leave. I don't know what I was looking for or what was being presented to me, but I knew that it was something essential. So I had to call my family, I had to call my job and make all the arrangements, and I found myself there. And I do remember, and I started visiting after I completed my visits to the ancient museums, to the ancient monuments, to the museums, and all those treasures that I wanted to visit. I started to visit then many mosques, and another profound experience took place the first time that I attended Salatul al-Jum'ah on a Friday. And I remember arriving. It was also in the area of Al-Hussein, a smaller masjid. And I remember arriving early, just sitting down, and before I took notice, the place was full, because it was Friday. And until I found myself, I could not leave. The place was full. So then I listened to the sermon of the Khatib, and after that, then the Salat started, and I said, well, I might as well I have to just pretend and do what everybody else was doing, so as to that nobody would take notice of me. So anyhow, I remember at the time of the prostration, when I did my first prostration, and I remember just feeling that, oh my God, nothing is ever going to be the same again for me. That was my third experience, my third powerful experience. The first one was entering a masjid for the first time. Then the second one was listening to the recitation of the Quran for the first time, and the third experience was doing prostration for the first time. So those three experiences really define my need to learn new ways to communicate with God, or to attempt to be closer to Him. New ways to continue this lifelong process of purifying our hearts, of correcting our mistakes, of controlling our emotions, of gaining knowledge and elevating our spirit. But after my first encounter with these forces, then it came the encounter with culture. And I remember saying to a new friend, a beautiful brother who took me to many mosques and who introduced me to beautiful people, I remember telling him, certainly my heart is opening to Islam, but if I decide to embrace Islam and make a commitment to be Muslim, I need to do it in my country. I need to return to my environment, my roots, my tradition, and grow from there. So I did that. I returned to Mexico, to my family, to my work, to my life. I started attending a masjid in Mexico City for a few weeks, and after a few weeks, I returned with many books, and I began to read. I have always been very open to other religions. That was the essential formation that my parents gave me. Always be respectful to people of different faiths, of different traditions, of different cultures. So I had no bias against Islam or against any other religion, and that truly facilitated my path into Islam, and has really been extremely powerful and determining in maintaining that respect, that deference to other faiths, other ways of worshiping God, the creator of everything that exists, the beginning and end of all creation. And essentially, then yes, I just waited, or rather Islam waited for me. So after a few weeks of attending, observing the prayer at this masjid in Mexico City, I finally came to the realization that this was something that was going to happen sooner or later. It was just a matter of time before I found myself saying, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. And I've always said, when you have the certainty that something is going to happen, then it better happen now. If it's something good, well, I want the beauty of that good to come. If it's something bad, well, let's come, deal with it, and continue with my life. So I found myself just with a group of 5 people, just doing that, just saying that statement of faith that was going to show me the ways to become closer to God. And then the challenges began. I remember, and this is I'm trying to read this because this is what I wrote at the time that I printed before I came here. I remember my thoughts were now I have to pray 5 times a day. I have to fast for a whole month. I have to learn Arabic in order to do those 5 daily prayers. I have to change my name, change the way I dress, change the way I interact to people, because that's a reality. That's the advice that many people who come to Islam receive from people with the best of intentions, but sometimes with little understanding of that other part of the human experience, those other ways in which one communicates with people, in which one is productive with society, in different ways to interact, to grow, to serve, and to elevate the spirit. I'm talking about the different and beautiful manifestations of culture and art that are essential for the human experience. And I began to have I remember to have these questions. Do I have to change my name, become another person, adopt another culture in order to be Muslim? And I had to take a step back, and now I'm thinking about it. I said, Alhamdulillah, that this happened many years ago, before all the avenues of social media that we have today. I'm just thinking about it right now, because right now the easiest way to learn or to answer your own questions is to go to YouTube or check on Google, right, and get answers from who knows who, from whoever, from where, or whatever. So in that sense, I did not have that tool, that double sword available to me at the time. That was 2005. That was what? How many years ago? 17 years ago. So anyhow, I took a step back and I said, well, let me answer myself those questions. And then I began to think, well, now as a Muslim, I have to pray 5 times. Before, as a Catholic, I used to pray 2 times in the morning and in the evening. So what's 3 times more? I have to learn how to fast for a complete month. Well, let us try. Let us try. Let me first inform myself about the reasons why Allah prescribed this pillar of Islam, this fasting for 30 beautiful days. Let me experience the beauty that all the people who fast experience, and I will return to that, because then after embracing Islam, I returned to Egypt a few weeks later to have my first Ramadan as a Muslim in Egypt, and that determined the rest of my life. But anyway, do I have to learn Arabic? Well, I can. I mean, always learning a different language elevates you, of course. So let's give it a try. So little by little, I began to learn how to answer those questions. So I returned, before I proceed, yes, I returned to Egypt that was in 2005 now, for my first Ramadan. And one of the most beautiful experiences of my life up to now always has been just sitting at this table in the street, sitting with strangers, like 5 or 10 minutes before the sunset, and just waiting for the adhan so you can eat. At that moment, there's nothing else to do. Absolutely nothing else. I mean, it happens. It happens wherever. It's a magic. Wherever you were going to go, either you already arrived there or you realize that it's too late to get there, so you just wait. And that returned me to that experience or that emotion of waiting. So just those moments, just waiting for the adhan of Salat of Maghrib, so that you can eat, break your fast, and then pray, where there is nothing to do than to wait so that your Lord tells you your fasting has ended. Now take some food and come closer to me. That's the essence of life, of love. And we all know that fasting is first and foremost an act of love of the servant to his Lord. And now let me, are we finding time, or is this okay, or
yeah.
At any point please interrupt. Is anybody watching? I hope not. But we'll erase this, no trace, please. But anyhow.
And feel free, Imam César, if you'd like to make it conversational, we can do that. I mean, if you'd like to start Q&A and then.
Well, but are we fine now? Well, let's see what time. Yeah, we'll just continue for yeah.
Feel free.
Thank you. But anyhow, then I do remember, for a long time, maybe even 1 year after I embraced Islam, many people, starting with my family, starting with friends, people at work, neighbors, asking me why did you choose to become Muslim? And we must remember that perhaps in 2005 it was not the best time to. You would not say it's the best time, because we know the world circumstances, the prejudice, the animosity, the mistrust. But anyhow, I struggled finding an answer, or finding the correct answer. And after a time, I finally came to the realization that there was no answer. Or the only answer it's not that I was looking for Islam. Finally, it was not my decision. It was God's decision. I don't have an answer why I became Muslim. God decreed for me to become Muslim. In His infinite mercy, He decreed that the best way for me to proceed for the rest of the path that I had to walk in this life was to fast in Ramadan, to pray 5 times a day, to learn, find the time, devote the time to learn how to recite Quran, how to do an effort to, with all my limitations, reproduce that beauty. And I also remember, I'll tell you 2 experiences. One of them, I participated years ago at an interfaith panel at UCLA, the University of California in Los Angeles. I was in a panel with other Muslims, Jews and Christians, and we were talking about the need for that interreligious dialogue, that interreligious understanding. And at the end of the panel, then one of the questions to me was, how different is your life now as a Muslim as before when you were Catholic? And the first words that came to my mind, and then after I said, well, when I was Catholic, I was praying twice a day. Now that I'm Muslim, I'm praying 5 times a day. That's the difference. And at first I thought, everybody laughed. And first I thought, well, that's a very simplistic answer. But it is not. After I thought about it, I said, maybe it's not so simple. It is not so simple. As I said, I thank God that I was exposed to the beauty, the knowledge that one finds in the Bible. I'm thankful to God that I was exposed to the beautiful people that have graced my life as a Catholic in a country whose population still is majority Catholic. And now is another manifestation of the beauty of God being presented to me. So in essence, I don't think I was so naive or so mistaken. There are many other, of course, many other benefits, many other emotions, but it is a continuous struggle to better yourself and understand the ways of your Lord. And then then the second experience that I wanted to share with you is I remember attending the Islamic Center of Southern California in 2000 in the city of Los Angeles in 2005. At the time, the Imam of the center was Mr. Jihad Turk, whom I believe some of you know, that has been here a few times. And after my initial conversation, I remember telling him, how am I going to be able to find my space in this community? And it was, and it still is, a very opening and welcoming community and space of worship. But I said, the language of prayer in Islam here is Arabic. My language is Spanish. The language of the community here is English, which is not my language. How am I going to be able to find my space here? Well, that's a big question. And that's a big challenge that people that converts to Islam face. How to find our space in here. I remember one of those nights in my first Ramadan in Egypt, attending Taraweeh prayers at Masjid Al-Hussein. And I was with a friend. After that, we went to this hall where the Imam who had just just recited led the Taraweeh prayers was sitting there, and then there was a group of men sitting in a semicircle, and I was just sitting in a corner. I was really transfixed with the beauty, the true love in these people. They were drinking tea, and it was just, you know what I mean, I don't need to say it. But at the same time, I said, no matter how hard I try, no matter if I learn Arabic in the best way, which I have never done. I can move here to Egypt and spend the rest of my life here. I will never become one of them. I cannot change my culture. I cannot change my blood. I cannot change my language. This is how God created me. Where He placed me, I cannot change that. And that truly determined or clarified to me the need to find my space, my essential space in that tradition that really determined my need to feel that I not so belong there. That's a very basic emotion. The need to feel that the Quran, in the language that it was revealed to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Arabic was also speaking to my heart. To feel that irrespective of the difference in culture, in traditions, in language, in manners, that was the space where I should be. The best space for me to be above everything else. And if God had decreed that I was Mexican, that for the first 40-some years of my life I was Catholic and I worship Him through the rituals of Catholicism, that He decreed that my language was Spanish, He now decreed that that was the place where I should be, that it was a decree of that. And my responsibility was to respond to that and gently, softly, and silently find my space there. Most certainly, this is a continuous experience. To learn to find my place in that rich tradition and history of Islam. Before we end, the topic of the real topic of this speech was today was the Hispanic Muslim identity. It is an identity in evolution, in process. We are a new community. That is a community that has been existing, evolving, moving forward for many years, but still we are a new community. And we are still in the process of defining that identity, that originality that will make us authentic. And in authenticity, as in truth, there is no room for doubt or negation. we don't negate our language, our culture, our traditions. As we do not negate, as we do not close the door to this beautiful way of Islam, this door that is opening itself by decree of Allah to us, so that we can come here and find our space. The Hispanic Muslim community in the United States it's all over the country. There are a good number of groups working in various parts of the country. I'm presently Imam and teacher for the Los Angeles Latino Muslim Association, LALMA. There are other groups there, groups in Texas, in New Jersey, in New York, in many states of this country and throughout Latin America. Our main challenge is to find the leadership, the teachers, both male and female, the imams that speak our language, that understand our culture, our traditions, that speak our voice. And that's a big challenge and a big responsibility, because we need people who first gain the knowledge of the vast and rich tradition of Islam and are able to connect our realities with that rich tradition without minimizing or hindering the other. We know that the way of Islam is the way of moderation. We know that Sirat al-Mustaqim, the established or right path, is the path of balance. We do not walk so close to the edge that we may fall down, nor we walk so close to the mountain that we don't see anything but just looking up. We walk in the middle, connecting both what is here and what is here. And that is our continuous struggle. So finding those teachers, those men and women from ourselves who recognize that, who become our voice, that's the main challenge, and that's a process that certainly takes time and takes the ability to productively wait. I think I should end here. It's 7:50. If anyone, well, we had said that if anyone who is being so kind to listening to us if there are any questions, or if we finish here, and if anybody from you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Okay, so we'll open the floor for questions, and we'll go to the ladies first.
I just have a comment.
Yes, please.
I just want to say that I really appreciate you sharing your experience. I think that you can connect to a lot of people that are converts, but I think you really connected even to people that were born Muslim, because I think we that powerful moment that a lot of converts experience. Like, we wish we could feel that. So I think I really appreciate you sharing that. I also want to say that I really, I think as a Muslim community, we really, we take pride in being an international community. We're so different. And I think the Latin community really has been missing in that.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's about time that they also join the community and that we learn about what their needs are. And I had a student just yesterday tell me, oh, my sister is married to a Jordanian, and she was telling me about her experiences with the Hispanic community and what it's like to be introduced into a Muslim community and Muslim customs. So I think it's the reality that we're living in, that we will have an influx of, you know, the Latin community into our community. And I think this is great that we're made aware that the, you know, Latin Muslims are here, they're coming, and that we should really, like you say, we should really learn about this culture and what their needs are and how much, you know, and I think sometimes as a convert, you have to think about what is okay, how much of my past can be still be loved.
Yeah, that's the other question that I didn't present it in my speech. Yes, absolutely. How much do I have to, and that was one of my first reservations. How much do I have to give up in order to live this new experience? Yes.
Thank you. I just wanted to
Thank you. No, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. I'm truly honored to be here. I still struggle communicating in English, so sometimes yes, please.
Question. I mean, you really spoke fluently. I mean, like you're attached to Egypt in the years of 2004, 2005. So then you came back, like the last 15 years in the Los Angeles community. Does the experience of being there, it differs than the experience when you come back? I mean, is that more, when you go there, you're a different person, you're different things, different when you, just the two lives? Because I know you speak a lot about how it feels there, the mosques, the people, the food, and now you're not there all the time. I'm sure you went there maybe subsequent years. So I'd like just to add more comments about how you find it when you went later on in Egypt, and how you find yourself when you are no longer in Egypt and you are in the world of...
Thank you very much. Well, first of all, the blessing of being able to go to a masjid to do my 5 prayers, especially to go for Salat al-Fajr in the morning, that is something that I have, that honestly I can only do when I'm in Egypt. When I'm in Mexico, well, the reality is that very few, I'm not close to a masjid. So it would not be possible for me to make it to a masjid far away at 5 in the morning or at 4 in the morning. Even in California, I don't happen to live close to a masjid, and it's not possible for me to do that. When I was Catholic, I did, as I said, I went to church at least twice a week, and my preferred time was to go for Mass at 6 in the morning when it's so quiet and only a few people, usually it's only just maybe 10 or 15 ladies who so this is also a beautiful balance. When you go to a masjid to pray Salat al-Fajr, well, maybe it's only like 10 or 15 men. In church, it's only 10 or 15 ladies. So that's a nice balance. There is a space for everyone. And that's very special. I remember once that I did live in Los Angeles for a time close to a masjid. And I remember one day when I was walking, it was like not even 5 in the morning, walking towards the masjid for Salat al-Fajr, and I encountered another man who was also going to the masjid, and he said, "What a big blessing that we're able to I said this is a big blessing that we can walk together at this time in the morning to the masjid. And he says, yeah, we'll receive our blessing inshallah in Jannah. And I said, I'm receiving the blessing now. It's so beautiful, so quiet. And this is true. So every time that I'm able to be in Egypt and have, of course, you do your prayers in your house or whatever it is that you are able to pray, and you come closer to God. And for some people, the place doesn't matter, and I admire that. But for me, for my own particular experience and my own limitations as a man, to encounter myself in the house of God to do my 5 prayers, it has a significance, it has a power. And of course, why did I have to? And that's my path, but that's what Allah chose for me. Did I have to go to the other side of the world to find this for me, yes, and not everybody, of course, have to go to the other side of the world to find Islam. Find Islam next to your house with your Muslim neighbor, as many people do. But that was my own specific experience, and I return to Egypt every year to continue my growth, to nourish that essential space. And I remember one conversation that I had with Imam Jihad one time. I thought, well, maybe I should just move, because I mean, the longer that I have lived non-stop in Egypt was for 1 year when I studied Arif Fosha. But after that, I thought, well, maybe I should move there for 2 years or so. And I remember in my conversation with him, it's not your time yet. I have a responsibility to find my own space so I can help other people find their own space. And being here at this particular moment is also part of my mission. So.
I have 2 questions. The first one is, what was the reaction in the family, among your friends, and then did you feel pressure? Did you go back and forth between yourself, talking to yourself, if this is the right choice? You know, the struggle.
I'd never struggled with was this the right choice? Did I make a mistake? That, by the grace of Allah, no, I never had that struggle. And I'm so fortunate that, with my family, I can say every single member of my family has always been very supportive. As I said, I grew up, I learned from my parents to be respectful, and honorable to other faiths, other religions, and that openness brought me to Islam. So I would have to continue that way, and I still have my same. I have never experienced any animosity from my, not from my family, from my closest friends, because I have always make it a point to be with them and to I think when our mission, when we engage ourselves in communicating, in bringing the message of Islam to other people, not so much a teaching as sharing, meaning, let me explain myself. What I want is, first and foremost, is to share the beauty that I have found in Islam with other people and present myself in an honorable manner so that Islam came to my life to give me the blessing of connecting with more people, not to disconnecting with people, maybe to bring me closer to humanity, not bring me apart. So I, in many ways, I'm still the same person. In many ways, of course, I'm not. In many ways, it has to do with the fact that I'm advancing in age. It's all part of maturity. But yes, I've been very blessed. I don't really have any sad experiences in my path in Islam in that regard.
So the second question is, we see a lot of people converting into Islam, and then probably after some time, unfortunately, they leave Islam.
Yes.
What do you think we should do as a community to really keep these people in the religion, to make them feel that they are part of it?
I think one of the most important things is to learning something about them, about their culture, their traditions. Different people communicate in different ways. It is a sign of respect in Latin American cultures to shake hands with other people. And if a person cannot do that because of his or her beliefs or traditions, he has the responsibility of communicating in a gentle way that. So I think that's an essential step to learning. And I say this because it's very common that many Muslim communities or mosques in Latin America are opened by immigrants from Muslim majority countries who emigrate to another country and with the best of intentions create a space for worship and invite people. But the reality is that they may not be the people with the knowledge or skills to communicate the teachings of Islam, and also importantly, they do not speak the language or even make the effort to speak the language. I have visited masajid in Mexico where the Imam does not speak the language, and which you can understand, but they don't make the effort to learn the language. They don't see the need to learn to try to learn the language of the people and learn the social customs. We know that throughout the history of Islam, and we know that throughout the history that Islam spread to all the way to China and to Europe, it was because of this respect, not because of arrogance or imposition. If Islam was able to flourish in such ancient and rich traditions and cultures as in China, as in India, as in Egypt, it was because of the respect, the gentleness, and the ability to wait and to learn. So I would say, one of the most important things is to make the effort and understand the need to learn something about the way in which those people communicate. I can learn something about them also. And then together, and of course, provide the means to nurture the education and the preparation. Because when I said about people that emigrate to other countries and with best of intentions, but with a lack of experience, open mosque, it would be similar to say I emigrate to another country on the other side of the world and I want to open a school to provide education for people, but I'm not a teacher. I don't know any teacher. I don't speak the language of the people, so I will be very limited in my success. People will come, and maybe the first year I will have a room full of students, but maybe the following year I'll have no one because nobody was able to understand me. And I never prepared myself to be an educator or to be a teacher. So that's I would say that's very important. That is one of the essential ways in which we can not only open the doors, but help make that space. Not only make people, because saying we welcome everyone, my goal is to make everybody feel welcome. It's more than that. I can welcome 1,000 people today and really be the most beautiful and gracious host, and they will come, and then I will make another event in another year and they will come also, but nothing happens in between that year. So I have to be more than opening the doors, be gracious and welcome them. I have to make them sit next to me, take my hand, and learn from each other.
Thank you.
Thank you. We can conclude because I think we need to pray Salat al-Isha. Well, thank you again so very much. I was very scared to come here because I had to fly in a very small plane. This is the first and last. I'm very scared of flying in small planes, but I had my reservation yesterday. But I'm extremely happy and grateful to be here. Salam alaikum.